Royalty is built on image. The crown, the palace, the portraits, all of it designed to project power, dignity, and control. But behind every dynasty, there are things that were never supposed to come out. Today we're going through 10 dark secrets that royals across history desperately tried to bury, and in most cases, they succeeded for a very long time. Let's get into it. In October 1920, Alexander, the king of Greece, was walking on the grounds of the royal estate near Athens when his dog got into a fight with a monkey. Alexander stepped in, and then a second monkey attacked him from behind, biting him deeply. The wounds became infected and he died at 27. A king dying from a monkey bite is embarrassing enough, but here is why this was buried. Alexander's death triggered a political crisis that led to the restoration of his exiled father, King Constantine I. Constantine's return cost Greece its alliances with Britain and France, which led to a disastrous military campaign in Anatolia, and over 100,000 people died in the aftermath. Winston Churchill later wrote that a monkey bite killed 100,000 people. The Greek royal family buried the details as thoroughly as they could. King Henry III of France ruled from 1574 until his assassination in 1589, and his entire reign was a performance concealing a life the crown tried to erase. Henry wore extravagant clothing and regularly dressed as a woman at court, to the point where observers wrote that, quote, one did not know whether it was a king or a queen. He surrounded himself with male companions called his minions, young men he elevated to power and showered with gifts. When the love of his life died, Henry went into what can only be described as a breakdown. Public cross-dressing and self-flagellation, whipping himself in religious processions. He was assassinated in 1589 by a monk who stabbed him. After his death, the French crown systematically erased Henry's personal life from the record. A king who lived as a woman, whipped himself in public, and had his life taken by a monk. The official historians decided that wasn't the image they wanted preserved. In 1766, a young British princess was sent to Denmark to marry her first cousin, King Christian VII. Christian was mentally ill. He was unstable, paranoid, and emotionally absent. Then she met Johann Friedrich Struensee, the king's physician. They began an affair, and here's what made it a state crisis. Because Christian was increasingly incapable of governing, Struensee effectively became the ruler of Denmark, issuing hundreds of reform decrees in the king's name. The Danish nobility watched a German doctor sleeping with the queen and running their country. In 1772, they moved. Struensee was arrested and executed. Caroline was divorced, stripped of her titles, and exiled, and she died 3 years later at 23 in a foreign country, separated from her children. The Danish crown buried the affair and framed Caroline as a disgraced woman. She was 15 when she was sent there, and she was 23 when it killed her. Murad IV ruled the Ottoman Empire from 1623 to 1640, and he was, choosing my words carefully, a psychopath with a crown. Murad personally prowled Istanbul at night, disguised, looking for people breaking his laws. He banned coffee, tobacco, and alcohol. If he caught you drinking coffee, he could execute you on the spot. Historical records indicate he had 25,000 people executed, many by his own hand. He carried a mace and a sword. Coffee drinkers were thrown into the Bosphorus with weights on their feet. He had his own brother executed not for treason, but because Murad feared he might be popular enough to challenge him. When Murad died at 27, reportedly from cirrhosis despite banning alcohol, the Ottoman court softened the details. The personal killings were minimized, the 25,000 executions were framed as necessary state security, the most violent sultan in Ottoman history, and the empire spent centuries trying to make that sound reasonable. Umberto was the last king of Italy. He reigned for 34 days in 1946 before the monarchy was abolished, and he was sent into lifetime exile. But the secret that defined his life started long before that. Umberto was gay, and his private life was an open secret among European intelligence services. Mussolini knew, and Mussolini used that knowledge as leverage to keep the Italian royal family compliant with fascist policies. Umberto's father was essentially blackmailed into supporting Mussolini's regime, in part because the alternative was public exposure of his son's sexuality. When the monarchy fell after World War II, Umberto went into exile in Portugal. The Italian government stripped the family of its assets. The crown jewels remain locked in the Bank of Italy to this day. A king controlled by a dictator through his own secret, exiled for life, and the reason it happened was never officially acknowledged. George was the first member of the British royal family to die on active military service in over 400 years. On August 25, 1942, he was a passenger on an RAF flying boat that crashed in Scotland under circumstances never fully explained. The official cause was pilot error, but the plane was significantly off course. There were allegations of secret cargo, including a briefcase of Swedish krona, and rumors of a secret Nazi passenger. 15 people were on the plane, 14 died, 1 survived, and the survivor's account was reportedly suppressed. The RAF investigation was closed quickly and the files sealed. In 2024, a new book reignited speculation, citing inconsistencies in the crash report. The British government has never released the full files. A royal prince, a secret flight, mystery cargo, and a sealed investigation. The official story doesn't explain any of it. Wu was the only woman in 3,000 years of Chinese imperial history to rule as emperor in her own right. She seized power in 690 CE. The secret the dynasty tried to bury is what she did to get there. According to official Tang dynasty histories written by men who served the dynasty that replaced hers, Wu took the life of her own child and framed the sitting empress. She was accused of killing her sister, her brothers, and multiple rivals. She maintained a secret police force. In 1 year, she destroyed 15 family lines through executions and fabricated treason charges. Now, those histories were written by her political enemies after her death. The extent of her killings may have been exaggerated, but even sympathetic historians acknowledge she was ruthless and that the official record was shaped to serve the dynasty that came after. When Victoria died in 1901, she left behind 12 pages of written burial instructions her family didn't know about until they were opened. She requested that certain items be placed in her coffin, including a lock of hair from her servant John Brown, a photograph, and his pocket handkerchief. Victoria's relationship with Brown was the worst kept secret in Britain. After her husband died, Brown became her closest companion. So close, the palace staff called her Mrs. Brown. Rumors of a secret marriage persisted for her entire reign. In 2025, a historian published what she called the strongest evidence yet that Victoria may have secretly married Brown. And here is the worst part. Victoria's daughter, Princess Beatrice, systematically rewrote 122 volumes of Victoria's diaries after her death. The original entries no longer exist in unedited form. Whatever Victoria actually wrote was deliberately destroyed by her own family. Ludwig built Neuschwanstein, the castle that inspired Disney. He's also famous for dying under circumstances that make no sense. In 1886, Ludwig was declared insane by a panel of psychiatrists, none of whom had examined him in person. The declaration was orchestrated by his own government. 3 days after being deposed, Ludwig and his psychiatrist went for a walk along Lake Starnberg. They were found dead in shallow water. The official cause was drowning, but the autopsy found little to no water in Ludwig's lungs. He was a strong swimmer. The water was waist deep. There were reports of marks on his neck. The official report was sealed. The most likely explanation is that Ludwig had his life taken either by agents of his own government or by someone who wanted to ensure that he never returned to power. Selassie ruled for decades. He was revered by millions. He was deposed in 1974 by a military junta called the Derg. In August 1975, the Derg announced that the former emperor had died of respiratory failure. That was a lie. In 1992, 17 years after his death, his remains were found buried beneath a toilet in the grounds of the National Palace in Addis Ababa. His life was taken and his body had been hidden under a lavatory for nearly 2 decades, while the government denied knowing where he was. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I will see you again soon.